Hey, everybody, and welcome, all ye faithful, to another episode of UHS Presents. And today we have, as always, our co-host, Lori Foster. Hello,
Hey.
Lori. I have a little. You've seen my notes. I had it all written out there, and then I'm trying to find the damn document so that I could properly and eloquently execute my intro, and I lost it, and it's all messed up now. So
That's okay. It's
we're just
chaos.
gonna whole episode down the toilet and start all over again. Okay. So today, as you all know, I hope, we have another good one for you. We are talking about mental health, specifically within the creative industry and creatives who struggle with that. And we have some really great guests that we are going to talk with about this. But before we bring them on, Lori, do we have any UHS news? I think we do.
Well, the main news, I guess, is we're launching a Kickstarter tomorrow for The Art of Ian Richardson. We're actually going to be doing another live stream. We're going to launch it live on the live stream. There's some really limited, like, original art and remark editions. So you guys are going to want to get in there and back, like, right away, because I have a feeling they're going to disappear, like, immediately.
Oh yes. And you can't get them, like, even if they don't get given away, you're not, then they're like, you lost your chance, right?
That's it, right?
Yeah. Forever gone. Ian's gonna give them to us, and you guys can't have them unless you come win them on stream.
Exactly.
So yeah. And we've got Hot Brass is all mailed out, right? Everybody who backed Hot Brass should be getting their stuff pretty soon if they haven't yet.
Most of it, yeah. We're just waiting on the hardcovers, but otherwise they're all sent out.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's the big stuff. We covered it. Woohoo. So yeah, let's get to this fun stuff here. And by I mean fun with like quotation marks because it's heavy stuff, but it's also really important to talk about. So we are going to bring on our first guest today. She is a USA Today best-selling author of just all the books. I went to her website and there's just so many books. And she loves video games and anime. So let's please welcome Catherine Banks. Hello, Catherine.
Hi.
Hey.
And next up, we have a visual artist who worked in advertising and film before ever picking up a brush, and who got fired from the set of Shang-Chi for dropping spoilies on Reddit. It's Lloyd Ladera. Hey, Lloyd. And we have to put a pin in that whole Shang-Chi thing because I want to know the story.
So we have to be careful though. Like, yeah, but totally.
No spoilies, but I just want to know, like, as much as you can tell. But before we get to that, let's introduce our third guest, who is the one who helped me find everybody who was willing to be a guest on a show about mental health, who is another USA Today best-selling author. I got it out, like third time's a charm. Very open about mental health. Kickstarter wizard. He collects pins and apparently dogs. Welcome, Russell Nohelty. Hi, Russell.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
No, I have to say that, like, I put a lot of books out, and like Catherine puts me to shame. So, like, whenever I think of like an author who is very productive, I always think of her.
Catherine, do you sleep? Because I saw, like, do you sleep? Because how do you sleep and write that many books?
Well, it's been 10 years that I've been doing it now, so.
Fair, but I'm like, doesn't, like, the Game of Thrones dude, what the hell is his name? George R. R. Martin? Doesn't it, like, take him, like, 10 years to write one book? And
it took him a long time to write those books, but, like, he wrote a ton of books before. Like, he's written a ton of books.
That's
just, like,
fair. People just don't know that he wrote a ton of books because they only care about the one that HBO.
I mean, if you ask me, like, if I could write one book every 10 years instead of 10 books in 1 year, which would I prefer? Like, I would way rather write one book every 10 years.
Especially if you get the attention that he got for that one, huh? Okay, so we got a bunch of people coming up here. So Astian says hello. Thanks for coming. I was worried about you last week. We didn't know where you were. Super Arrogant Brothers on Twitch says, what's a Twitch? I don't know either. Katie Rooston. Hey, guys. Hi, Katie. And Caston. Yay, Caston's here. Kolbashinsky, right? Did I screw it up? Did I get it? Kolbashinsky? I think that's right. she's got a weird last name, guys. And it's pins like buttons, right? It's not pens, it's pins. I'm
Pins, yeah, like pins.
I got that funky Midwest accent, and I wash my hands in the zinc. And we make casserole, all that. Used to make fun of my granny for that. So I kind of feel like a dick about that now, but at the time it was hilarious. So okay. Before we get into this, Lloyd, how did you get fired from Shanxi?
I'm not even sure if I'm allowed.
Is that,
okay, cool, yeah.
Oopsie type thing? Like you made a mistake?
No, okay. So I got hired as an extra, right? So one of the background actors is punching in the background, and I've been working there for like a week, and then I just had it in my brain to share things on Reddit. So I posted a photo of my badge with an ID because it looked cool. It looked like a shield badge thing. Mm-hmm. So I suppose, hey guys, check this out. And then, Reddit, they started asking questions, and they got a few things out of me that I shouldn't have been talking about, but it's out there. Anyway, so that night I was going to the shoot, like it's off. I rented out the Airbnb somewhere off in the bush. Mm-hmm. I got a call from my agent, right? He was like, "What the fuck, bro?" It's like, what's happening? It's like, "You're all over Reddit, man. You used your name." It's like, what's happening? And it's like, "You're in a lot of trouble." And I was like, "Oh no, what should I do?" And you're gonna get some calls. And like, I got a few calls from some people, and it's like I was just trying to share my good experiences on a set. I enjoyed myself, and they were like, "Nah, it's not
Oh,
good."
No.
You're like, I was just excited about it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was.
They
feeling.
clearly were not clear enough with you about what you can and cannot.
No. I signed the NDA. That was my mistake. I was apologizing to my agent. I got him in so much trouble. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm blacklisted now because I used to do like Fox, it's extras, just background stuff, But my agent's like, I don't think you're ever gonna be working in that field again. It's like, good thing I have my art to, fall back to.
That's ridiculous, though.
That's a bummer, but also, I mean, I understand their point.
Okay. Well, because remember when Jumanji, the remake for Jumanji came out with Jack Black, they were sharing stuff all over, right? And I was like, that's fun. I would rather watch them having fun on the set than actually watch the film. Sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel that way too. Like, I want to watch the movie, but I also love to see the behind the scenes stuff.
Absolutely.
And I guess maybe if you just would have waited until they had released the movie, they would have been fine with it. I guess.
Yeah.
I get why they don't want you to do it, but also, like, if all you did, well, it wasn't.
No, I did say some things
got
that
yourself
I
in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Reddit's fault.
Yeah. Well, and Reddit being Reddit.
Yeah,
So.
they reported me. Apparently, there's people on the Disney subreddit just dobbing on everyone. It's like,
Fair, and bummer.
Disney stance, yeah.
Overall,
it's fun. I had fun. I might show up if they don't cut me. I'll be looking at the background. Oh, that's me.
Oh, there I am. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my elbow.
So, okay, we should get into this meat and potatoes, as they say. Russell, I talked to you first about this when I wanted to approach. I was like, who do I know in this industry that is super open about how it is, how mental health is affecting creatives, and like who's open about it, who knows what they're talking about, so to speak, because nobody knows what the hell they're talking about when it comes to mental health, right? But the very first person I thought of was you, because you are so open about it. You talk about, you make Facebook posts all the time. If I remember right, Ichabod Jones is based on, or you use that as inspiration for Ichabod Jones?
Yeah, absolutely. I put all of the sort of, I mean, Ichabod, it's very hard to write Ichabod. I'm glad I'm done with it because it puts me always in a real bad place from like when I was back to, when I was, because I wrote it when I was like 26 and I was in a really bad place. I'm like, not that I'm still not in a bad place, but like nowhere near when I was in 26. So yeah, Ichabod was definitely sort of a channeling of all of that stuff. I mean, really, all of my books are a channeling of that stuff. It's hard for me to write something that does not somehow channel all of that stuff. If nothing else, then it, like, a lot of my work now is a lot of like noble bright, like more hopeful stuff, because like I can go into that world, in a world where good people or people can do good things and like win in the end, which is like not the reality we live in, but like it's a reality that I want to live in. So, you know, I've written 19 books in the past 2 years, something like that, like novels. And people ask me how I can do it. And I'm like, it's the only way. Like, I wouldn't be alive now if like I couldn't channel all of this stuff into another world where, like, I don't know how people write like reality now, because the reality is so shit that the fantasy that I write, which is almost always about like normal people or superpowered people that have to make the decision to like try and save the world or like do the right thing. Because I used to write darker stuff, but I literally can't get in the mindset to like do that. Nor do I want to read any of that stuff or watch it like at all. I can't be put into. I just can't.
Makes sense. I understand that too. I think a lot of people who make stuff, be it writing books or drawing or sculpting or whatever you're doing that makes you happy. I think that there's a ton of people out there that can say the only thing that got me through this super dark time was the stuff that I do.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, there's this meme that's been going around. Me and Kat probably both shared it because like we do a lot of that stuff, which is like, it was a Junji Ito, and it's like Junji Ito is like usually so like as a person, he's like very upbeat and like happy, and his stuff is incredibly dark. And then Studio Ghibli always makes these really light, like happy pieces, and Miyazaki is like a notorious like negative Nelly, like just criticizes his own work constantly. And like I think that is pretty much that is very much like I totally understand Miyazaki's like headspace, because like if I would love to, I would totally make that stuff. I mean, that's not like my aesthetic, but I get it. Like I get wanting to escape into like a world where like of like fantasy and where like things are bright and happy. When like I'm the worse in the mood I get in, the more like hope I have to write into my books to kind of like balance out my brain.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Every picture that I've seen of Miyazaki has a very strong like goth vibe to it. He is if that was a thing that I thought that he would be, then I would just assume that he was, but like he can't be, right?
Well, if you haven't watched the documentary on Disney Plus, the Miyazaki documentary, it's really enlightening.
I refuse to give them any of that kind of patronage until they actually release some fucking Miyazaki movies on their platform, because where the hell is my Howl's Moving Castle? I want to watch Howl.
It's on HBO Go.
On
HBO. They're all on HBO.
And that pisses me off because like I'm refusing on principle right now, because I shouldn't have to buy 800 different streaming services just to watch the movies I like.
I don't know, man. You're missing out. Owl House is the bomb.
There's some Miyazaki stuff on Netflix.
We're just gonna get rid of him now.
We're just gonna kick Russell out. Sorry. But yeah, to what you're saying, to what you're saying though, like I feel like, especially over the last year and a half of hell, it's been really hard to even consume media that is depressing, at least for me. Like, someone will recommend something and I'll be like, yeah, I can't watch that right now. Like, I don't have the mental capacity. Like, I want to watch something that's happy and not something that reminds me about all this shit.
Like, something wild out of this world. Like, yeah, absolutely. I get that. Like, I stopped watching other people's problems, Like, if it starts off like, oh, a character has this problem with this character, No, no. I'm watching robots shooting lasers out of unicorn butts.
Exactly. Yes.
Where the hell's that movie? I want to see that movie.
Oh, it's a game, Sunset Overdrive.
So, I mean, I personally do have the mental health stuff that I deal with every day. And I also am neurodivergent, as they say. I have ADHD, as I've mentioned on here several times. And we're actually doing an episode on ADHD. So, you know, everybody can tune in for that one later. But I thought mental health is not like broader, like more people are willing to talk about that than they are and willing to acknowledge that it exists than they are about ADHD and autism and neurodivergencies such as that. So I thought this was a good one to start with to, you know, maybe we can convince some people that these other things are real. So Catherine, you had jumped in on, so I messaged Russell and I was like, I want to do this episode. It's really an important topic to me. Can you point me in the right direction to find some more people to talk to about this stuff? So you were one of the people who responded, and I think you were one of the first even. And I was curious. I am curious if you could just, what made you decide to come on here, and what's been your general experience that you want to help people know?
So, the main reason is because people don't talk about it. We're stigmatized. You don't talk about those things, right? You keep that quiet. We don't talk about it. But the issue is that you have people who have all these problems. They don't go to the doctors. They don't get diagnosed. And, it eats at them. And then, you can have people who end up becoming suicidal or even just killing themselves because they were too afraid to go get help. And so I have no issues telling everybody all my craziness and all the things that I have going on in my head. And as long as it's going to help someone. And I know that, I've helped a couple people who, their family was like, no, we don't discuss that. We don't talk about that. And so, me being very open and like, nope, I got this. Yep, I did this today. You got to battle it. Make sure you take your pills if you have your pills and they help. Like you got to make sure you do that stuff. And it helped them to actually go get diagnosed. And so now they're much better off for it. And it's like just off me making random posts about, the insane little things I do, or, how I react to certain things. And, people saying that and going, yeah, I do that too. I have a shirt that says, I came, I saw, I had anxiety, I left. And like, that's something that, my husband had to understand. Like there comes a point, we call it leveling up. I tell him like, I leveled up. And he's like, all right, let's go. Like, okay, I'm at my anxiety threshold. We got to go, and it doesn't matter where we are, friend's house, out in public, a concert, whatever it is. And so being able to be open and honest like that, especially with your partner, is super important, so that you can say stuff like that, and that's why I jumped on this, because I feel like it's a very, very important topic to discuss, and for people to really be able to admit to themselves that maybe I do have a problem. Maybe I should at least go talk to a doctor and see what they say, and at least start the conversation.
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely think that just if any one of us, like I possibly have the smallest Facebook following of all 5 of us that are on screen right now. And even when I post just one little thing about mental health, if that inspires one person to reach out, I feel like that's enough. I mean, if everybody who has trouble would reach out, that would be great. But if I can get one person to do it, then that makes me feel like my struggles are worth something.
Yeah, I have a borderline personality disorder, which is somewhat rare to have, and not a lot of people get misdiagnosed too when they have it. And so once I started openly posting about having it, I found out that a lot of my friends had it, and they were like, I didn't think anybody else I knew had this. And it was like, there are certain things with borderline personality disorder that are very unlike other mental health disorders. And so being able to message someone and say, you know, this is what's going on, and have them actually understand, you know, not like meme level understand, right? Like totally understand what you're going through with that same diagnosis really, really helped. And, you know, we were able to help each other basically have sounding boards, you know, for having that. And so I feel like it's important to be totally honest about it. Like I said, I have a laundry list. You know, I got PTSD, depression, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, and I'm open about this. So, you know, and it really does help to do that.
I agree. I knew somebody with borderline personality disorder, and she must have been diagnosed a half dozen times with the wrong thing before. Actually, I don't think she ever did get an official diagnosis of borderline. But
yeah, I didn't get it until I was 24, something like that, 25 maybe. You know, and I just had, you just have depression and anxiety, you know, and then I went through the whole process because we were trying to see if it was ADHD or not, right? Because my husband has ADHD and my 2 children have ADHD, so I was like, maybe it's that, you know, you neurodivergent people, you know, we have a lot of similarities, and so I was like, maybe it's that. So I went through the whole process, and they were like, your anxiety is through the roof. You have PTSD. You have do you? And I was like, oh. Interesting. And they're like, no one's ever told you this before? And I'm like, no.
Oh, my favorite is when you go to one professional and they just go, nobody's ever told you this before. And I'm like, why would they have? And it's funny when they're shocked about that. It's so funny because you'd think as a mental health professional, they would also know that mental health professionals are just very wildly in their experience and their proficiency. And that you would. And most people get the wrong diagnosis at least a couple of times. Like, I don't know a single person who has walked into the clinic and gotten the right thing taken care of the first visit. Like, it never happens. I mean, shit, my diagnosis had to come after how many times did I go get my thyroid tested? I mean, I had, everybody was, oh, you have depression, oh, you have anxiety. No, I have hypothyroidism. My fucking thyroid didn't work right, which was giving me depression-like symptoms. I mean, now I know that I do also have depression, but my thyroid is fine, and that fixed like 80% of the dysthymia, double depression crap, you know, where it's I had that all from as long as I can remember as a kid and everything. And when I got the thyroid medication under control, that all went away. So, like, that's just one experience of a billion of people who got at least one wrong diagnosis, and that's right. I feel like you have to go do your own research and find out what's wrong with you first.
I feel like it's unfortunately also more difficult for women to get a proper psychological diagnosis because doctors don't believe you when you tell them stuff. All kinds of issues with that.
Just being hysterical or hormonal.
Sure, right.
But also things present differently in women than men often. Yeah. I mean, you talked about autism before, but like autism presents completely differently often in women than it does in men. And because most test subjects are men, and most of these studies happened decades ago, and most of the people who were participants in those studies were men, and still the ones that lay the bedrock for most of all branches of science, are so old.
Caucasian man, sorry.
Huh?
I'll point it out. Caucasian man.
Yes, you're right. Yes. Caucasian man.
Like my girlfriend's a nurse, right? And I was saying like my face hurts because I have sunburn. She's like, you don't have sunburn. What do you mean? She's like, you don't have the rash. Like, that's white people symptoms, like brown skin. And she's like, yeah, I never thought about that.
It's right.
Well, and like
my face hurts. It burns.
How many times have you seen on the news? Like I see on the news way too often about women talking about having a heart attack and going to the emergency room and being turned away because you're just having anxiety or you're just having, because women tend to have that impending sense of doom, as like our classic heart attack is like chest pain and collapsing on the floor. When for women, it's like your arm hurts and you have this weird, anxious, impending sense of doom. Not to say that you don't also have the chest pain, but with the white people thing, that's a thing that I think gets overlooked a lot too. And we don't have a lot of diversity on this panel today, so it's good that you brought that up, because that's something that with mental health probably presents different, and with like Lloyd, like what you said with your upbringing, with your culture.
I was about to say, because you guys were talking about how you got to your doctors, right? Your mental health doctors. When I tried to get help for me and my girlfriend at the time, because she had anxiety and I tried to kill myself. Like, we needed help, and the only people who were willing to see us were church people, and they were mental health. They were professionals, but they also tend towards religious stuff. You go to the clinic is in a church, you go through a church and their back offices or whatever. But it's hard because you get told most of the time it's just pray or tell your family, and then we found out, like, I needed meds, my girlfriend needed meds. I what my doctor thought was a high blood pressure for me was actually just my endocrine system just firing off like panic hormones. And I never got that kind of help, because most of the doctors I see was just like, nah, that's not a thing. Everyone else in this hospital has like broken legs or whatever, and mental health wasn't really considered a thing unless you're just broken and, like, barely functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of homeless people back home, they're just shattered. They don't even, like, we call them grease people. They're just covered with grease and dirt and just rolling around. And you see him screaming, that guy needs help, like, bad. But, what can you do? Third world problems.
Sure, yeah. That makes sense. With the my train of thought derailed. I thought I was being like really smart, and then I was like, I forgot everything I was gonna say.
Oh, everyone has that, like,
PhD.
Cloudy brain.
Yeah. Oh, you were saying about the church thing. I too got a diagnosis of you should pray more.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was
That's the go-to.
That was before the oh God, I just have everything wrong with me. But before I got the thyroid thing, I went to this particular doctor asking, like, can you test my thyroid? Test the whole. I want the whole panel, everything, and tell me if because it has to be bad. Because I'm the one who said test my thyroid, and I finally found one doctor to believe me. But yeah, that was her. Oh man, I still get really salty about that when I think about it. It's like she was just like, have you considered that your spiritual health might be the problem? And I'm like, you're a doctor. You're supposed to study science and medicine, not give me your voodoo witchcraft.
Jesus Christ can heal you if you just accept him into your heart. Right?
Just right.
Just let him like splurge all over you. Yeah.
Is it the white Jesus or the real Jesus? Because there's a white Jesus and that this lady believed in, and there was a actual Jesus.
Right, that's true.
Historians all agree was a real dude, but he was not a white guy.
Middle Eastern, at least.
Yeah, exactly. He had brown skin. Jesus had brown skin. And I believe that it is people like her and people like that. Like I today am 99% atheist. Like every now and then I'll have those flicks of my upbringing that come back to me, but I don't really believe in a higher power anymore.
I used to be an altar boy, and I'm pure atheist.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly, you're exactly like me. We actually got to be. I was in 5th or 6th grade. I don't know how old I was, but yeah, like they started letting girls be altar servers. They call them servers now, altar servers. And yeah, I did that too. Church every week, twice a week, every week, and super Catholic. My mom is very Catholic. My family in general, and I was like, no. It actually kind of pisses me off that I can't get my name off the rolls in the Vatican, because there's no way to do that. If you don't want to be Catholic anymore, tough. You're on their list.
I think you're Catholic the moment your dad came.
Right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Conception.
That's so gross. I didn't want to think about that.
Sorry.
Ew. I don't want to remember. I know my parents did that, but ew.
Hey, so mental health.
Yes.
Like,
Let's
not
get back
that I
to
don't
it.
love a good
Thank
10-minute
you for saving me
diversions
from
against the
that.
thing.
Oh,
But
Talk about
like,
how our parents had sex. Yeah, I know. I think that the mental health stuff ties in very strongly with the religious stuff too, because it just, I mean, I'm not saying correlation and causation, you know, I'm saying that there seems to be an awfully strong link in there about people who have problems and people who were raised in a super strict, conservative religious upbringing.
And
I
who
wasn't-
aren't getting treatment as well, like because
Yes.
it's taboo to look into that.
Katie's I'm falling behind in the comments. Katie said, "I want to sing the 'Every Sperm is Sacred' Monty Python song now." I guess if there's ever a time that it's appropriate. Caston said, "Women do have it so much harder. Add that to not having white skin, and you might never get the correct diagnosis. White men do not reflect the experiences of everyone, and that
Right.
is very true." Well, since you get to be that representative for us, Russell, how was your journey into finding help, professional medical help for your problems that you were experiencing and wanting to fix?
So I learned from a Black friend of mine that if they will not do something for you, that if your doctor does not want to do something for you, ask them to write it on your chart and then go get a second opinion. And they will almost always do the thing for you that they said they would not do beforehand. So I learned that real early in my life. But I don't know. So I find it very hard as a creative person who runs a business to know the level of anxiety that is appropriate. So my psychologist, when I first went to a psychologist, was like, your panic, your anxiety and depression are off the charts. I was like, yeah, I run like a company. Like, I understand the thing you're saying is correct, but like I run a company and also like nobody needs the thing that I'm selling. Like it's a complete I don't want to say cuttable, but like it's not like food, water, like rent. Like
It's not a
thing that
necessity.
can easily be cut. Like if you're in a bad time, and also we're like all in a bad time right now. So like I don't know what the correct level of what I should be feeling now is, which is why I use my wife a lot to judge like whether I'm overly anxious about something or whether I'm have the appropriate level of anxiety, because like I run a company that has like no guaranteed income, that like just has 40% of their stuff of their income like got chopped from not doing shows. I don't plan on doing shows in 2022, so like I have no idea when I'm going to make that money back. Even before then, like I only make money when I produce. So like there's just a huge amount of pressure on creative humans, and like we're not making a widget. You know, if we were making carburetors, if we're making carburetors, like it's easy to be like, that's what a carburetor looks like. That's what a good carburetor looks like. But like, I mean, as a writer, I'm sure Catherine has had this experience, but I would love to hear her opinion of this too. Is like, you could make the exact book. You could plot for point by point that's some of the most successful books out there, and it would not do the same. Like you can like literally pull the and go page by page, and it would not hit the way that another book hit. Like you can be having a great series and put another series out, and like it literally just sinks in the water and nobody cares. Like it's not, if you're making, I don't know, tires, pretty much be like, okay, I sold like this many tires. I'm going to make another like size of tire, and I should make like it's a tire, it's a commodity. But when you're making the things that we make, like there's no guarantee. I have this campaign that's in the Gods vs. Chronicles universe, and the last Gods vs. Chronicles graphic novel did $25,000 on Kickstarter. My last book that came out did $22,000 on Kickstarter, and the book that we have now is gonna be lucky if it gets to like $11,000 or $12,000. Like it's the same universe with the same set of characters, but a different art style and a different time that it came out. And like, it's a completely different world. I talk about how like the thing that I worry about with a long series or a big universe is not like success. It's is this book going to break the universe? Because the odds of that happening are vastly higher than the new book hitting and doing well. Like pissing off existing fans when you have a longer series is way easier than like than support than like getting new fans in the door and having them like the new book and like getting the next thing. So the biggest issue that I have in my journey to get diagnosed is like, this is really a high stress job that like tends to bring in people who are neurodivergent on some level anyway. And so when you look around at your group of friends, like they all probably have some diagnosis or should get one if you're a writer or artist, and if they don't, the level of anxiety and like depression when something goes poorly, like those things, like they are a hit to your ego when a book comes out that doesn't work. But more importantly, it's like, oh, am I going to now be able to pay for my next cover? Am I going to even get this book? Am I going to be able to pay my mortgage with this month? Like, do I have enough in savings that like if this series that I have 2 or 3 more books planned for and covers for doesn't work, like how do I pivot to something else? There's so much intrinsic anxiety that is deserved for the thing that we do, that it's hard to be like, oh no, this is above what is already a high level of anxiety field that we work in.
Yeah, can I just say, because it sounds like it, because like creatives work, we do everything, right? Because I used to work in advertising. I used to have the support. Like I didn't do marketing. There was a marketing team. I didn't do admin, just admin team. I just sat down and did art. It was easier than what I'm doing now, but less. I would rather work myself to death doing my own thing than, because working in advertising is like the sweatshop version of creatives for me, at least. That's like you're put to the grindstone and then work till you're out. That's the thing. And the anxiety that puts on me, that used to put on me, it's like, yes, there was no stress, but I feel like shit all the time. Like my art is shit. Everything I do is shit. There's no point in me doing anything. But me stressing out, I stress out more doing running my own business, and I just no one to help me. I'm drowning almost all the time. But it's something I can power through. I think from a creative standpoint, that's what I'm saying. Like the stress of doing this for our own thing, I don't know. It's different from working on someone else's project as a creative. That's draining you, not just like your anxiety, just everything.
You're doing it for yourself, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, because like I work in advertising, and most of my work, years of work behind NDAs. I have worked on posters, like billboards and things on TV. I can't say anything about that, and I spent so much time on all of that work that that kind of eats at me. That's why I'm working so hard on this. But I get what Russell's coming from. If you work with a support team, yeah, the stress is not there, but it's hollow, I think. I'm sorry, that's just.
I think it depends if you're.
Makes sense.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think it depends if you're doing it full time or not as well. I don't do this as a full time job. I have a full time day job, and then I do this on the side. So, it's stressful because
1,000 books.
I have like 54, 55. I don't know. It's hard to keep track. 50 plus. But, it really is. It's really hard. Russell said, like, when I first started, there weren't all these communities. There weren't all these Facebook groups. There weren't, these groups like 20 Books, to help you. In 2010, it was, you had to format your own ebook and it had to match the specifications to get it uploaded on Smashwords correctly. And, we were making, I was making my own cover. Well, my husband was drawing them. He was making them, not me. He was making my own covers, and I had one book that did really well. And I didn't know at the time that as an indie, you have to publish differently. So I published a book a year, and well, that one book did really well that first year. And then the next year, that next book didn't do so well because it had been a year since I'd published and nobody remembered me. And I didn't know how to do advertising back then. There wasn't, the easy, Amazon advertising. It wasn't nearly as easy. So a lot of my first books, didn't do that well. And so it's like, I still did them. I still finished them because I had to, because that's just how my brain works for those ones. But, I still get these, books that, like Russell said, I'll have first book, great. I'll put the next book out and, put it up for pre-order. And there's like no pre-orders. And you're like, okay, do people just not want this book? Like, was the first book good, but they not enough that they care about a next book in this series?
Or was it bad? Like, did they all buy it?
Right.
And you're like, oh my God, like maybe it was bad. And that's
maybe it was terrible, right? You look at the reviews and you're always going to have, 1-star reviews because not everyone's going to like your work and you just got to accept that. I mean, you still cry about it. At least I do. I cry a little bit when I read some of those, but then you accept that you can't please everyone and that's okay. But, why did this book fail? And so like, you're trying to look and it's just so many different aspects that you have to look at when you're doing it yourself. Was it, I didn't market enough? Was it, I didn't, shared it in enough groups? Should I have done more newsletter swaps? Like there's all these things that could have done better. I could have done this better. And then that's when you got to make sure you don't go back and read your book because you're going to find so many things that you could fix and change. And it's like, no, it's already out there. Stop it. Work on your next thing. But
with my art a lot. Like I'll go back and look at my graphic stuff and I'll be like, oh shit, I made that mistake. That was stupid. And I'll be, no sense in worrying about it. You can't fix it now.
Yeah. So, there are times when it's good to republish. Like I have books that, my older series, my first series, I get new covers for them, new editing, a new blurb and put it out there again, like hoping, because those are my original babies. Like, come on, you can do it. Let's go. And sometimes those still fail. And you're like, all right, well, I guess that wasn't it.
It's like not expensive. It's not cheap to do these things at like a good level. Like getting a new cover is not like $100. It's like it's expensive to do it. And even if sometimes you have to do it, I know writers who do it every year, every like other year. They'll like recover a whole series, and you're like, oh my God, that's like the money just keeps needing to come out, and like with no promise that it will come back in once you're done with it. And you're spending weeks, months on some of these series. I just did a series. It took me 3 months to do. And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, no, I'm going to spend all of the money on this series before I have any idea if it's successful. So all of that stuff is hard, but like, it's hard to detach that from the mental health part of it because like when I was younger, I used to think that like, influencers and all this stuff and people that cared about their image so much were like shallow and like vapid. And now I'm like, oh no, like it really is a thing you have to care about. And like, you have to be like, if you're an actress and you're going out to get friggin' milk or whatever, like you might literally meet like Martin Scorsese at the mall. You have to like treat it. And like all of the things, not just putting the books out, but social media posting and all this stuff that like goes into it. I've been really down about my work recently because like I feel like I've stagnated for the last like 3 years. I was talking about this with Sarah this morning. Like 3 years ago, we did a book in September, had 1,000 backers, raised $40,000. Two years ago, we did a book that did $15,000 and like 500 backers. Last year, we did a book, like 600 backers, like $20,000. And this year, like $8,000 for this launch. Like, it's like, and you're like, and I felt like this for like the last year plus of just like the mailing list growth happened, like all of these things, like all of the metrics that you're supposed to hit, like all happened. And then like all I've seen since then is like I make good money on the books. Like I shouldn't be complaining, but this is a mental health like podcast. So like suddenly you're like, oh, this one did worse. Oh, this one did worse. Oh, less people bought this one. And you're like, oh my God, like I put so much stock into these things and these universes and these worlds. And like, I did it with the intention that like things would increase like they have in previous years. And then suddenly all of the metrics shift on a dime. And it's really hard for mental health in the best times, which is why I like post so much about it, because like if everything is going great, your mental health is probably still going to be bad. Like like I have a friend who writes and like he literally is getting work faster than he can make it. And he's like, I have to keep taking this work because like for 5 years I didn't get any work. And now I'm like, so like he's for 5 years he was like depressed and anxious because he wasn't getting the work that he wanted. And now he's like depressed and anxious because like he's got 20 projects to finish. And all of that means like you really have to do a lot. You have to acknowledge it, especially if you're doing this full time, and sort of take safeguards against it. Understand that like you may have to go and get diagnosed with something. Understand that like you need to talk with other people, and like you don't need to talk to them and say, I think that I have a mental health issue, but like at least listen to what the conversation is and be like, that does sound like me. Like that sounds like me. That sounds like me. But the thing is like the 5 of us could have the exact same conditions or the exact same list of conditions, and it would present in all of us differently. So like the hardest part is listening to your own body and saying, I've worked enough today. I need to go and like read a book or like do exercise. And people say like, I mostly take only write in the morning, and then the afternoons are for like exercise and reading and doing other stuff, doing things like this. And people often think it's a luxury. I'm like, but BS, that's not a luxury. Like I know exactly how much I can get done in a day and still be fresh the next day. I know that if I write double that amount of words, it's not going to work. Like I'm going to be burnt out for 4 days. And suddenly that one really great 10,000 word day is a 10,000 word week. And that means I need to hit 25,000 words a week. So like that means that like I had one great day and 4 terrible days. And when you're doing this for the long haul, you know, it's like doing stretches. If you're an artist, like doing hand stretches so you don't get carpal tunnel, and like understanding that your physical health is, everyone agrees that like that is important. Like, but people think that they can just work 20 hours a day every day for 5 years and like there will not be any negative consequences for that. But like, and you might not see them at first. Like when you're 20 and you're doing this, like you're friggin' drinking all night and getting up with the sunrise, like, yeah, you don't feel it between 20 and 25. But man, I feel it now at 48. I felt it at 40. And like the older the better habits you can make when you're younger, with your mental health, to be like, here's what I can get done in a day realistically that will keep me for the long haul, as opposed to like burning yourself out. The better you are going to be able to deal with your own ups and downs. Because even if you're on the 100% the right meds and you take them exactly how they're intended, you will still have high days. You'll still have low days. You'll still have things that knock you out. You'll still have things that come out of you from left field, and you're like, oh, I didn't even know that was a trigger for me until like literally this moment. And you and by having the practices that are that like a therapist can give you, or like you can research yourself, or maybe your friends can tell you about, and you can check off which ones work for you. Suddenly you like have a set of like an arsenal of things that you can bring when you're having a bad day, when you're having a good day. Because like I often find that like some days I'm like manically excited to do everything, and I have to not just pull myself up in the bad days, but also be like, dude, do not work on 3 projects today. Like do not work for 15 hours, even though your body says you can do it. Like go maybe do a slightly longer workout or like read a book, but like do not burn yourself out on a good day, because it will not do good for your mental health for the next week.
And piggybacking off of that, actually, if you don't mind, I think it's really important that artists and writers and publishers can communicate to each other about this, because like, as we know, like in the comic industry, especially, publishers are crap, and like they will not tell you when a book is due, and then all of a sudden it's due and you have a month, and like too goddamn bad if that's 20 hours of work a day for you, and like there's no forgiveness at all. So like for me as an indie publisher, I want to communicate with artists, and like if they're having a bad mental health day, I want them to be able to tell me that, and I'll be like, okay, that's fine, like no worries. Like I feel like being able to communicate about this shit is super important and doesn't happen. And being able to, like, if you need a week, if you need like whatever you need, we need to talk about it. And if also like to that, so like I work with a couple of artists, and of course with Sarah, who have ADHD, and they tend to function better with a calendar done a certain way, or assignments given a certain way. And like if people tell me that, then it's way easier, and then we're not like, well, we need this due on this day, and anyway, it communicating about this, I feel would be great, like for everybody.
I wish it was like that in your day jobs too. I mean, in your day jobs, when you need a mental health day, you don't really get to say that. You're not like, hey, I'm not coming to work today because, my mental health is real bad. It's, that they don't usually take that the right way.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times I had a flat tire on my way to work. I can't even tell you.
Yeah, I think we should start pushing back on that though. Like I used to do that when my advertising work, but I was the only animator on the team, so they really couldn't do much about it. So I think that's privilege on my part. But if the other part of that though is like when I used to work in advertising, we used to work 10, 12-hour days, just the office. It's just like everyone expects you to work till 9, 10 at night, just stay home. And then I actually had a few friends who had heart attacks and they didn't know what was happening. They thought it was just stress. And then, but now that it's chest pain and your left arm is hurting, you're gonna die. So I think pushing back on actual, not just as creatives, as freelancers, pushing back on employers, on how much we're allowed to say like, my health is more important than the work you're expecting me to do. Because you're only paying me money for my health. I wish everyone has the leverage to say that though. Like I know life's hard and we take the jobs we can, but we should be able to say like, I'm not gonna risk getting my health go worse for your project. But no, it's
something on that topic though is writers too, writers, like creative people tend to make their schedule as if every day is going to be the best case scenario. And I literally, if an artist comes to me with a schedule, I double it every time, because like I know for a fact there is no chance that Black Market Heroine is the first time that someone told me the schedule, except for like Ichabod's different because and like my long-term project is because like I hire someone for 2 years or 3 years like to do a book. Like it's a little bit different than bringing someone in for like one book or like one project, but I always try to make sure that like they have more time than they think they need, and which is another part of like for Catherine, myself, and people who are working on their own, like you can't act as if every day is going to be your best day. Like you have to, when you're making your schedule, say, am I being too liberal with too conservative with this schedule? Like do I need to give myself another week? Like I always put in a certain amount of weeks for a book, and they almost always take less time. But like that does not mean that I still give myself like a month to do a book, even if I know it's only going to take me 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks to do a book, because like that is how much time I need if I'm like if I have a bad mental health day, or if I have to go to the hospital, or like if my sister gives birth, or whatever the thing is. It's so important that we don't just rely on the publisher to say, do you need more time, or like the client, but like so many of us work for ourselves. Like I work for me, and like I do treat myself as the publisher, and then I give the schedule to myself as the writer, and but it's important that we don't just say, if you say, can you do this in a week? Like, if you can't do it in a week, like, don't say you can do it in a week. But you have to know that, like, I'm only working 8 hours a day. And like on a good day, I'm going to work 8 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours, and like give yourself the latitude to only work that time, and then figure out what you can do in a time frame that you don't burn yourself out, because it is on the employer on some level, but it's also on us, because like if I give you a schedule that's 3 months, Lori, and like I need 6 months, like even if you double it, it's 6 months, but like I need a year. Like I there's nothing that a employer can do if like you don't advocate for yourself in your own life and in what you can do for yourself also on your own personal projects.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You said something about the artist getting the work done and thinking that they have plenty of time to do it, and I kind of chuckled quietly to myself, because as an ADHDer, I am never going to give it to you in plenty of time. Like, ask Lori. I will always deliver it to you, but it's probably going to be the day it's due. Because that's one time I think it absolutely will backfire, is that if you got somebody like me who's just, I am like Olympic gold champion of procrastination. It's an executive function thing, but still, it's a thing.
Right. But like because I'm aware of that, I just tell you the deadline is earlier than it actually is. And that works really well.
Exactly. And now that I know, it's fucked up everything. Like, we're going to be ruined. Everything's ruined. But yeah, by the way, Lloyd's phone ran out of juice. He's trying to get the mic thing working for his computer, because I think he was having trouble with his mic, but he's trying to come back. So
we'll get him back. Yeah. I'd love to hear more from Catherine about kind of writing and BPD and PTSD and everything, because I assume you have a lot to say about it, so I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I did a lot of research myself, because my doctor gave me a little sheet that explains, the most common symptoms and what those symptoms are, and that was it. And it was like, they're like, oh, well, you should go to these in-person classes, and I'm like, do you realize who I am? I'm not going to in-person classes. Like, that's one of my biggest issues. Right? I have social anxiety. I don't want to go into a room with people I don't know. And so, they're like, okay, well, that's the only option we have. We only have an in-person meeting. And it's like, how is that your only option? So I just, Googled the hell out of BPD and, looking for legitimate stuff, looking for, trying to slosh through all that stuff, because there's a lot out there, but there's not always a lot that's good, right? So I had to figure out, what was out there, what I could see, and like, okay, yes, those are things I do, those are things that I definitely do. And it really did help knowing, oh, that's from the BPD. That's not I'm a bad person, or, that's not that I'm a crap worker. It's, it is the BPD, and you don't use it as an excuse, but you do at least acknowledge it. So when you're doing it, you're like, no, you can't do that. Take a breath, let's think about why you're reacting this way, or why you're doing this on this project. And, that really helped. And there was a period of time where I refused to do pre-orders because, rapid releasing in the indie world is very big, right? Because the readers want it now. And so we'd start being almost forced, right? I mean, we are indie publishers, but it was the readers are demanding it. So I published published and wrote a 4-book series in 8 or 9 months. And, it was because, when you publish a book, you should have that next book up on pre-order, because the fans are more likely to pre-order it. And so I was doing that and forcing myself to write fast. And then it was like, okay, once I finished that series, I was like, no, like, you're done. Like that I was in a really bad spot after I finished that, because it was so draining on me, and I didn't really realize it until I got to the fourth book and finished it. And I was like, all right, you can't do that again. So, I'm very limited on what books I put up for pre-order. If it's a series I know, like I really love this series, and like this, I write contemporary. I have a contemporary pen name, and that series that I'm focused on right now is light and fun and, almost rom-com-ish, right? And so writing that is like a treat. Like I get to just have fun. I get to make them do silly banter. I put all the puns in it because puns are life, and I love puns. And I'm sure Russell's tired of seeing all the puns I post on Facebook.
Please more, even more of them.
Joke puns. I love me a good dad joke.
Right. I love dad jokes. And so I try and put those into this book. And so, I wrote this darker book, and like that really affected me. And then I was like, all right, I need to work on something fun and light. And so I started working on that other series, and I was like, okay, yes, I like this. And I don't usually do contemporary. I was focusing on fantasy because, to me, I write to escape. Right. You write and read to escape. And so it's like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about the contemporary. That's not really a true escape, but these characters, and the way that they are, it was, and is, I'm working on book 2 now. So I think you just really have to look at yourself and acknowledge, the things that you have, right. And what triggers it. Like Russell said, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you're just doing something and then you're like, whoop, okay, nope, that's a trigger. We are not doing that anymore. Or we got to make sure that doesn't happen again, and try to avoid that from happening. And you really got to make sure that you look at everything, try and keep track. I mean, there's a lot of times that you're just like, I don't know what that is, because so many people have something similar or, experience similar things. I don't know if that's because of this or if I'm, just normal or what. And so I spend a lot of time researching my own diagnosis, because BPD, there's not a lot out there, there's not a lot available right now for it. And so that really did help me, understanding that, some of the things I do, it's like, oh, that's a BPD thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, being able to talk. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So do you have any tricks that you use for yourself, like that to make sure that you can keep going, or like that to keep the nargles at bay?
So I found sprinting, 25-minute sprints, right, for writing really does help me. And right now I have a low word count goal, just because I'm just trying not to push myself too much this year, because this year has been difficult, and so I have a low word count goal. But I actually am doing sprints in Discord with other writers, and so we have these bots in Discord that you get points when you meet your little goal, and it's just silly fun, right? And so but the 25-minute sprints, I do like a 25-minute sprint, 5-minute break, and then I might do another 25-minute sprint. But I really, how am I feeling right now? Like, am I opening up my my internet to go to Facebook because I need a break? Okay, well, that's a sign you should probably just step away from the computer, right? So it's like, okay, go in the living room, watch a show with the kids, or do something else. Like I take a lot of breaks, or I'll just do one sprint, and I'm like, all right, that's all I can handle today, especially if I've worked my day job. Right, I do my day job, and then it's like, all right, let's do a sprint before I lose all this motivation. And then you do one sprint, you're like, yeah, that was it. All right, we're done.
Well, and the important thing is not to feel guilty either, to take
Right.
breaks or to need to stop. Like, that's just, we need to normalize that shit.
Right. And I think it's a little easier for me because I'm my own boss, right? Well, easier and worse because I'm my own boss. So I'm like, what are you doing? Do your shit. Get together. Get it together. Why aren't you doing anything? But, I also know you have to take the breaks. And so, I don't have set too many deadlines for myself because I know if I have too many, I'm just going to stress out. Like, I have a book due in January, and that's what I'm working on right now. And I'm like, you can't, I've been putting it off. I only have 6,000 words written on it right now. It's like, nah, you can't put that off any longer. You have to start really buckling down and working on that book. I have hundreds of other, little projects sitting there waiting for me to work on. don't touch those. You need to focus on this because otherwise that's not going to get written. And it's going to be October, November. And I'm like, oh, crap. And then I'm going to stress myself out. And then, that's going to negatively affect my mental health. And I know it. So that's why I'm started working on it now. I'm like, work on it now.
I learned that I needed to be a year ahead of my own slate. Like at least, like I had to be like I'm working on stuff for 2023. Like I can't. Like if I'm like not only because I need to write it to get it done, but because I need to distance myself from the emotion of how it was to write it. Like if the book doesn't do well, I need to be able to be like, that's cool. I've got 4 more books that like are done and I can't stop doing this, which is a pain because we talked about earlier how you can have a book 1 come out and then book 2 and 3 are like suck. But I find that if I can be far enough ahead, if I'm not far enough ahead, then like I get wounded when it's not going well. Hey, look, I just finished Black Market Heroine like 2 months ago, and I'm very wounded by like how it's doing right now, and like I'm very emotional. I'm way too raw about it, and I realized a couple of days ago like why, because like it's going well, but like it's going well, but I feel like so much more emotionally attached to this book than I should before I release it because it just finished. And now I'm like, no. Like, it's so great. Like, I read it like 20 times like last month. And I just need that distance to like not have that mental health weigh on me.
That's totally true for me too, because I wish I wrote ahead because I release a book and then the next one's on pre-order and I need to write it. And if that book's not doing well, it's like, well, maybe I'm not going to work on this book. And you just push it, down the line. And, sometimes authors have to do that. If you release a book and you put, a next book up, but it's just doing terrible, maybe that, isn't something you need to focus on right now because time is money, and I could be spending my time working on something that is going to sell well. And, which do you focus on the one that's going to sell well, or you focus on this one? Because, sure, I have a handful of loyal fans who are going to buy that book. But that's not enough to pay the bills. That's not enough to pay for that cover and the time that I spend on it and the marketing that I'm going to spend on it. So I wish I wrote ahead. I should probably start doing that because it would definitely help.
Can I just, from just hearing you guys talk about the work, I just figured like, I think we forget that we make, like you guys, like the writers, because I'm an artist, you guys write it. Writing drains so much of your brain energy, right? And your creative process. But if you tie that into how much it would make, I think you're selling yourself short because writing a book, thousands of words, that's you deserve a few months rest after that, at least, just to rest. But
but that is the
you have to do marketing. You have to.
But that is the great like. I don't know, tragedy of like writing because like you can't take a bunch of months off because so an artist has the ability to sell an original for hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars.
Or millions if you stick a banana onto a wall with a piece of duct tape.
Sure. Oh, NFTs sell for millions.
Sure, but like novels aren't like that. Like they are a commodity good that like someone will buy for $20. So like if you're going to make $2,000 on a book and you need to make $20,000 to live, like you need to write roughly 10 books. So I agree with you. It would be amazing if you could do that, but
it just sucks that the world we live in right now devalues writing so much because writing is hard. It's just, it just drains you, you can't just pop things out. I mean, some people can, but it does drain you. I think we, as a society, we should have been like considering how much brain power it takes to do stuff and then letting people like us rest. Because I'm just thinking about it now, like all the problems we have seem to be like, oh, we need to do this. We need to push ourselves harder because I need to make this amount. It sucks that we have to live that way. It's like,
I have the other problem. Actually, the reason that I write is because if I stop writing for 3 days, I want to kill myself.
Oh,
I mean, as like my mental health gets so bad after 3 days of not writing that In fact, the only thing that stems off the like that I've ever found in my entire life that can stem off suicidal ideation is writing, and writing like novels in that. So while we have been talking about a very specific type of like issue with anxiety and depression and all of this stuff, like for me, it is much harder to take a break. Not because like I need to write 20 books a year, but like the getting up and writing 5,000 words a day like burns off whatever like suicidal ideation, anxiety, depression bullshit that like exists, that allows me to then like exist in the world as a human. So the books are almost an ancillary byproduct of burning off my anxiety, which is why I keep doing them. Like I could never keep doing that if it was just to make money. Cause like I could go, like we could all go make 10 times more money selling anything else than writing. Like any of us, like even the most, like including Stephen King, could make more money selling another thing. Like books and art, but especially books are not like like you need so many people to buying it to sell well that like it's just so hard. But I do it because it helps my mental health. Like it is the thing that helps my mental health. And if it did not, I would probably do something else.
So
It's fantastic.
to Lloyd's point, you know, when I first started publishing 10 years ago, it's been a while, 10 years ago, my whole goal was, you know what? I just want to find one fan who reads this and goes, that's my favorite book. Right. You know, just to get that, you know, someone who's like, oh, I love this series or I love this book. And then, you know, that was just as a, you know, this was a play project. But then when it turns into a business, then it's like, I'm so glad that you love this book. Can you tell your friends? Because no one is buying this book, you know, like if you love, like, please leave reviews for your authors, because that's how other people find books. You know, they go check their reviews, they look at them, and you know, it's so disheartening. Like you'll have a book that sells well and there's no reviews. You're like, okay, was it bad? Was it good? And people are just lazy. Like I know I'm lazy, you know, so I that could be, you know, I get bad about, you know, posting a review or posting, you know, at least a rating, right? And so it really does, like when it becomes a business, it becomes a lot harder to focus on those goals. And, you know, then it's like, okay, I hit that goal. Someone loved my book. It's their favorite book. What's the next goal? What's the next goal? What's the next goal? You know, you're always upping your goals, trying to hit the, you know, something else, trying to, you know, improve your business. And it's draining.
Katie just said that writing was something that helped her mental health very much too. And it must be, I don't know how to say this. So it's going to come out really clumsy, but you can help me try to refine it. It's like a beautiful kind of curse almost. Like you have to, it's amazing that you can write and create this stuff, but, and that it helps you mentally to do so, but also almost a curse that if you don't do it, then it's like, if you have, it's almost like a medication. Like, you know, if you have to take a medication so that your heart doesn't stop working right. If you don't do it just one time, then you're going to slip back into that illness. And it's so for writing, being that you said it is kind of a taxing, an emotionally taxing job for you to do, but then you have to do it. That must be an interesting, like I cannot wrap my hand around that, how that must feel.
Sure. So first, I will tell Katie that like it sucks that you can't do this anymore. I would, if you have, if you really want to write, I would try like Dragon Dictation, and like maybe you can talk out your book. I know there's a lot of authors that do that, but I mean, I've run a lot of businesses in my life, and like they're real boring to do. So like I'm going to talk up writing for a while, because like running a creative academy is boring. It's like you have a product that is a course, and then you run ads to it and you do webinars. Like I have run photography businesses. They all, like, once you figure out the formula, like you're like, oh, it means me. I get bored. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I figured it out. Like it's boring. Writing I've written now not quite as many as Catherine, but over 30 novels. It has never been boring. Not one book I have ever written, and I consider myself an expert on writing novels. I have never had anything but like an incredible struggle to finish a novel. Like it has been taken everything of me. And even if I'm writing the next book in the series, it also takes everything to get it over the finish line. And so it is a kind of beautiful curse. I often say that I'm fueled by anxiety, and like this pandemic has been the best thing for my productivity because I'm anxious all the time about everything. And so like but like writing is beautiful in that way, in that nonfiction is not the same. Like I figured out the formula for nonfiction writing, and like it also bores me, but like fiction writing, when you're trying to be like, I have these 5 characters and this is their goal, and like I've got to get them to the goal. It has never been anything but like infuriatingly frustrating and wonderfully beautiful, literally every single time. And every single time it's different, and every single time it's still surprising. So, I mean, for me, writing is the best thing I can do for my mental health. I'm not saying write 5,000 words a day. I started at 1,000 and 2,000, and I went professional, and now I'm writing like 5,000 words a day on like the books. But man, like if you need like a challenge, an impossible challenge, like coming up with how to get from A to B, like over and over again, while keeping it interesting, while never repeating the plot points that a character has had like 50 books on. I can imagine like you're like, I did that 30 books ago. I did that 10 books ago. Like and that is why it gets harder over time. Like the process of it may get easier. Like I can write probably like 1,000 words in 30 minutes now if I really like put a gun to my head over and over again. But like, then it's like, man, nope, I can't do that. No, I can't do that thing. Nope, I can't do that. Cause like I did it in this book, or I did it earlier in the series. Or I did it in like, or like I read it in this book that only came out a year ago. So like, I can't put that in there. Otherwise it's going to like feel like I'm biting the thing. But like all of those challenges like are what exhaust my mind.
I think that's why, sorry, Russell.
No,
I think that's why a lot of authors branch into other genres too, right? Is because you're like, okay, I've written all of this stuff that I can think in this genre. Let's try writing something in this genre because that's different and new and sparkly, and and then you get that, really invigorates your creativity again, when you're in a new genre. And I think that's why a lot of us also branch out into several different genres.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of jealous of you right now that you have that thing that you can count on to always help make you feel better, because I have not found that yet myself.
I mean, it's real hard.
For us, it's illegal, or what we doing is illegal.
I mean, like comics don't do it for me. I'll be honest, like comics don't do it for me. Like I feel like I found the secret to comics, like which is hire an amazing artist and then like give them latitude to like tell your story in a way that like will be amazing. But like it's all like directing also is in a way, because I've directed movies and TV shows, and like it's a lot of it is like put the right team in place and then project manage it. Like it doesn't once you've written the script, which does take long, and like that's a different thing. To me, making comics is like writing the script and then all of the things to actually make the comic. Like, and so like writing the script is different, which I still think like, for me at least, like once I know a series, I'm like, okay, here's what needs to happen in this series. I'm going to put all the pieces in together here now. But like novels is a thing that requires your whole brain. And I would ask, I mean, that probably the advice I would give you if I were to Sarah is like, try and find something right. I mean, if I was an artist, it would be art, because like you can put your whole brain into it. Like you can sit there and you can zone out and you can just like draw circles and like whatever, like keep doodling on it. Like you could do 10 arts in a day. Like you can do whatever you want. Like, but it takes all of you to focus. And that is what I have found to be the most helpful thing for me, is like a thing that is infinitely hard. Like art is infinitely hard. Staring at a blank page and put anything you start at a blank page and you have to finish it with no help from other people, whether that's a puzzle or I don't know, I can't think of another thing besides a puzzle, spirographs, whatever it is, but like that stuff is what help me the most. And like I love comics, but I will be honest that they have become more like functional for me over the years as I've learned like what a good comic means. Whereas books, like, I don't know, Lloyd, like, do you have like, does it ever get like old? Does it ever get boring to you? Or like, is it always like that same challenge of like, wow, I had this thing in my head. Now I got to get it on a page.
Oh, art stuff? You mean?
Yeah.
I love working with other people. Like I really do. I love working with writers. I love working with directors. Like that's, because I know what I can do. It's like you said, you can pump out 5,000 words, but if you don't care about it, it's not gonna do it for you. So I love other people's energy. That's how I like. If I'm going to work on a painting on my own, I'd be bored out of my skull. I'd rather just watch a movie or play a game. But if it's like collaboration with someone else, I'm in it. That's what gets me through it. You know, like how you guys have the writing. If I'm working with someone, like helping them with my I've been working with my friends Sarah. We've been working on some books, like posters and stuff. That is more fulfilling to me than like me painting on my own. That's just.
I actually that I do understand completely, because I think that I have done some of my best stuff. Some of my best design stuff has been for Lori, doing stuff for Lori for UHS. I do stuff for myself, but if nobody's going to, I don't know, this kind of sounds conceited, but like if I'm not helping somebody and they're not going to be like, thank you when I'm done, and that people have to see it too. Like that's that little kind of full of myself sound, but if people aren't going to see it and go, wow, that's really cool, then I kind of think, well, if I'm not going to show it off, why am I even making it?
Yeah, I think it's more like the right people see it, because if an author hires me for an artwork and then their fans see it and it's like they love it because that's their thing, so that really, like, I would rather have that people see the work and appreciate it than have a masterpiece that only I have like few people will ever see.
Yeah. See, there's Katie too saying that she did some of her best stuff when she was with other people, and that, yeah, totally, I agree with that completely. It's like my art stuff is very functional because I am a graphic designer, so having my stuff be able to I'll pass it on to Lori and we'll work together to make it as good as we can, and then it becomes useful to the studio to promote or to get a message across, or however you want to say that, but like it is
there's utility to the art, yeah, because I'm a graphic designer as well, yeah,
and it helps. It just like that is something that does it for me. So maybe I did find that and I just didn't realize it because I found my writing 5,000 words a day thing. So but yeah, like it's just to say that I did some of my best stuff is because I was like that fucking mummy cat drawing. That was one of my best drawings, and it's because I drew it because I was we were doing Hot Brass Pharaoh's Gold at the time, and I was just like, I'm gonna draw a mummy cat, and then Lori's like, holy shit, this is really good, can I make it into a pin or a sticker? And I was like, yeah, but now I gotta finish it, and I did. I finished it.
The energy. Yeah. If I had to, like, I get that because I have half-finished projects that I thought was brilliant, but I lost interest because it's just for me. But if someone else is waiting for the project or there's a deadline, I'll pour my everything for that.
Yeah.
So I think collaboration with me, because I like my background in advertising and film. It's always a team effort for almost everything. Everyone has their own feel.
Yeah, and I had a thought here about the ability to get back into, and I don't think this is related to anything we were just talking about, but the ability to get back into what you're doing and what you love after something hugely traumatic happens. I'm curious about that, because that was me a few years ago, and I don't even know how I managed to come back from it. So I'm curious about, is it collaborating with other people if you have something terrible happen? Is it writing your 5,000 words? Is it that structure, or is it, because it was a year at least for me, and I didn't do anything. And I'm wondering, is it the need to
How do you guys get back on the horse, so to speak?
Yeah, although, because it sounds like the creative process, making anything takes so much brain power. That's just it. But if you're dealing with trauma, it would be really incredibly hard to, function at 100%. It would be unfair for you to expect your brain to come up with creative stuff that's impressive for you, at least, while you're dealing with your own thing, I think. So when I moved countries, apparently moving countries is traumatic, losing friends, work, whatever. I didn't know.
Living your life, yeah.
Yeah, I found out after, so I was not prepared. But art did not help. Like, it really didn't. Like, it helped because I had circles to go to. Like, I was alone when I moved to Sydney from the Philippines. I didn't have friends. Like, barely had any family here. But I went to art lessons. There was spots for me to go to sort my shit out. But just doing art at home, that didn't really help me, at least, because I felt I can barely do anything. Like, my brain's it's all foggy, and expecting myself to pump out artwork after artwork, it's too hard, I think.
Yeah, that's like a good thing, I guess. Like, you moving countries, like, you move to better your own life, usually is what most people make a huge move like that for. And so it's supposed to be a good thing. So that's probably why you didn't really think about the bad part of it. But yeah,
still hard. Yeah.
I feel like, if the people who are watching this and the people you guys here with me, you're gonna get it, because my traumatic thing wasn't anything like that. It was that my nephew took his own life, and he was 15. And it blindsided us all. So I felt like I was just, it was very robotic. And everything that I did, I only did the bare minimum that I had to do to keep my job at the time. Like, I showed up and I pretended to be pleasant, and then I went home and I did nothing for, like I said, it was more than a year. And having no, everything that was my support system before suddenly wasn't. So my, going and doodling on my notepads and making my my various graphic designs, for whatever reason that I was making them, it was all gone. And that's when I think I could have used the support system, such as this one here, to get some of that help. Because what happens when something terrible happens and that thing that you were using for support is no longer supportive? So it's an interesting.
I don't know. That's my answer, because like, I fear stopping. Like, I just fear, my dad died and I wrote more. Bad things happened. The pandemic happened. I kept writing. Like, I fear stopping as much as anything else. So I don't know what would happen if, like, I came back to writing and, like, it did not satisfy me anymore. I think that is the wrong question, though. The question is, like, why do we feel the need to tie our self-worth and our identity to this thing that we're supposed to love, instead of and when we're feeling that sort of trauma, why do we not go and try and heal from that trauma, instead of, like, going back to the things that you that we're supposed to love and having them not work. So like I think that the light burns out for all of us sometimes, and I let it when it's happened to me, and then like I find new things to love. You know, I worked in film before, and then I worked and then I was a screenwriter. Then I was a director, and I edited stuff, and I worked in news, and I did all of this stuff until they didn't serve me anymore. And then years later, I found that some of the things that I lost my passion for served me again, and I brought them back into my life. But I brought them into my life in a way that served me, not that I was in service to them. And that's how I feel about the writing too. Like the writing is in service to me. It is not, I am not beholden to it. It is an expression of me, and it will be an expression of me until it no longer serves me. Once I am going to a notepad and forcing myself to write or something, that is when I will stop writing, probably. And all of that stuff is like, when you deal with trauma, like when you get hit in the head, you get better from getting hit in the head. Like, you're not suddenly like, I got punched in the face, like, let me go and like make soup or like whatever other stuff. Like, you go and you lay down and you stop being dizzy, and then you like stand up, and then maybe you go and do some small things, then you do bigger things, and then bigger things. And then maybe you're like, wow, I didn't like this thing, I need to do this other thing. But I mean, the only answer that I could give, besides the rambling that I just did, is like, heal from the trauma. Don't use use art as therapy as long as it serves you, but like, don't go back to the trauma and say, and force yourself on anything, because you probably were just not ready. You know, it's a higher level function that we have to, that creativity is, and you probably were not ready to perform that higher Maslow hierarchy of need function.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Like, also, like, if you're injured and then if you try to push your injury, it will do some permanent damage to your brain. Like, developing coping mechanisms for the trauma that you had, and like, because I don't particularly tie my self-worth to my work. For me, it's just work. But I do like the opportunities it affords me to work with other people, the projects that, you know, I like people. That's basically it. So if I feel down, I work on myself. That's it. I don't feel bad, like, oh, I haven't painted, or I have a deadline. No, I tell my clients I'm working on myself. Your project is worth this much to me compared to my mental health. Like, I don't give a shit. That's where I'm at. That's why I don't stress out too much about my work, but Russell's earlier point still stands. Like, I have luxury goods. I can paint 10 paintings a year, and I can support myself by selling them. But I chose this profession because I prioritize my mental health. I don't want to go back to feeling like I want to kill myself again. Like, there's nothing in the world worth that for me. No work, no opportunity, no person in the entire world can ever push me off of my mental health. I have a hard,
uplifting thing to hear, because there are people out there that are still, they're not there yet. They've had that low point, and they're not back to the nothing is worth more than I am to me. So that's uplifting. That's an excellent point for us to push the pause button on here, because we actually are over our overtime a little bit here, and I bet everybody has to go. And again, ADHD brain, I feel like after we got this going, I didn't really know what I was expecting, and I feel like, I should have structured this better. So we might have to like do a part 2 on this stuff here, because and structure it better with a little more ideas. And I wanted to get Judy Venn's thoughts on stuff too, because Judy is a creator as well, and she also is just the biggest psychology nerd I've ever seen in my life. So I think she has degrees in it. It's like she's
we need a professional on this.
Right.
But so we have to wrap it up for tonight, because I know everybody's getting to where they gotta get going and do their days or evenings, as the case may be. But before we go, I wanted to mention stuff from Russell. You have a Kickstarter happening, and Lloyd, you gave me this gorgeous piece of art, and I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to tell us what you're doing here before we go, and then we can tell everybody that's watching where to find you, because I want to make sure everybody knows that too. Lloyd, this is your piece that you sent. This is one of them, and I thought, boy, does that
anxiety number 4.
Anxiety,
3.
yeah. That is like, I looked at it, I was like, oh, that makes me anxious just looking at it. You do this. The anxiety.
Thank you. It's a drowning thing. And can I show you the other one? Like, it's up here. That's number 2. And number 4. I made an anxiety set. So this is anxiety number 1. Number 2 is in storage. Number 3 is the one I showed you. And then it's the last one.
Here, yeah, so we can get your big screen here.
Yeah. Anxiety 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 4. 1, 3, and 4. 2 is missing.
Those are beautiful. So
thank you.
This is where people can go to find your stuff. It's Instagram. and your 8-bit NPC, and the 8 is the number 8. So
or just Google, just search my name, Lloyd Ladera. It should be like I've set up my algorithm.
Perfect.
But the AI is on my side.
Great, because we I looked at your stuff, and it is beautiful. It's all every bit as beautiful as that one painting. So it's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Follow me on Instagram.
Yes, I did not do that when I was over there. I was like, that was stupid. So that's what I'm doing after we're done here. So Catherine, this is so it's catherinebanks.com. Nice and easy to remember. Yep. And give us a quick what are you working on right now, and what do you want us to look at the most, kind of things?
I'm working on I have a new fantasy reverse harem series that I started as a duet, actually. So book 1 is out. Book 2 will be out early next year. I also have a contemporary light mafia reverse harem romance. That's book 1 is out, and book 2 will be out in January. And then I am re-releasing some of my older series with new covers, new editing, new formatting. So I just released the Little Deathbringer series. It's a young adult epic fantasy duet. So that is available right now on audiobook, paperback, and ebook. All new interior formatting and covers and everything.
That sounds like fun, and
that's awesome.
I wish I had more time to look in at everybody's stuff as I'm looking at your stuff for the stream, and there's not enough hours in the day. It's a problem. Let's see here. I've got stuff from Russell. This is some of from the one that you're currently kickstarting, right?
It is. So this is my book, Black Market Heroine. Camry Lapka is the artist. It's her first graphic novel. And it's about a criminal who accidentally saves the Antichrist and has to keep her alive until morning, so a demonic cult can't use her blood to open a portal to hell and start the apocalypse. As part of my Godsverse, it's part of my Godsverse Chronicles universe, which currently has 7 novels, and this will be the 3rd graphic novel with 4 more novels launching in January. So I also should mention that if you love Lloyd's work, I also love Lloyd's work. He's been in all of our Cthulhu is Hard to Spell anthologies, and the first 2, and he will be in the third one. As well. His work is incredible. So you can pick that up on the Kickstarter as well. If you go to just russellnohelty.com, it will redirect you right to the Kickstarter, because I do not mess around. Like, I learned this a long time ago, that just like, if you want someone to go somewhere, just send them all to that place. I also should mention that Kat is an amazing writer as well. And I love her work. I'm not a big romance fan, but like, I love her work anyway and her writing. So seriously, like, look at both of their things, and also go to my website and back Black Market Heroine. I think it's a lot of fun if you like manga, if you like action adventure, if you like fantasy, if you like girls kicking butt and fighting demons, then you're gonna find something to enjoy in the whole series. And yeah.
I told Russell, I told you that earlier. I was like, my money situation is very fluid right now. Well, it's not fluid. That's the problem. I was like, because I was looking at Catherine's stuff, and I was like, shit, I want to buy some of these. And then I'm looking at Russell's new Kickstarter. I was like, shit, I want to buy some of these. And there's not enough money. So everybody go buy UHS stuff too, so that Lori can pay me more and I can buy all of your guys' stuff. That's where I'm at right now. And then, okay, one more thing I wanted to show. I think I showed everybody here before stream, but I want to show everybody who's watching. Katie did this one, and this is one of the things I think that you did this. Katie, correct me if I'm wrong. You were having a bad brain day, and you like to draw dark stuff when you're doing having a bad brain day, and it's so freaking creepy and awesome, and that's one of those things that you were talking about with your 5,000 words. It's like if drawing creepy stuff gets you through it, then draw creepy stuff. And
Absolutely.
I just wanted to show that one because that was one of the ones that she's also willing to show off her anxiety and depression stuff. Yeah. Oh, she called it venting art, and it's venting art. That's a good name for it, actually. That's a really good name for it. So yeah, we got everybody's we know where to find everyone, and I want to thank you, all three of you, for coming and talking about this stuff. And like I said, we should do a part 2, and we should schedule it out a couple months so that I have time to structure it better, because I need that. So,
awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah, no, thank you, and for coming in right at the beginning of your day too, probably, Lloyd. Right? It was like 10 o'clock in the morning when we started.
Lunchtime for me. I'm gonna have lunch and then take a nap.
Very easily the farthest away of anybody that we've had on the show. Like at first, it was Ian and Katie, and they're all in the UK, and now it's you. So you get to hold that honor for quite some time, probably forever, because Australia.
Oh, I think I'm the farthest, unless somebody get somewhere from New Zealand.
Yeah,
Or send the boat out to the Pacific
Ocean. Coming back the other way. So like, great talk. I hope it helped somebody who is watching. If it just helped one person, that's, like I said, that'll make me. That's enough. If we could help one person that's watching, that's enough for me. More is better, but one is enough. So, having said that, I guess we will bid thee all good night, and thank you for coming and watching us. And please come back next week. So, bye.
Bye.